Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today, I want to talk about something that MSNBC's Chris Hayes has said about gun violence. Now, if you don't know who Chris Hayes is, well, good for you. You're one of the lucky people that doesn't know. This is one of those pie-faced morons that just gets my blood pressure up every time they say something or every time I have to look at their face. But if you're not familiar with him, just for the sake of this show, you're probably going to want to know who he is, because we're going to be talking about what he said. Think of Tucker Carlson, shown here in this picture, trying to convince reporters in vain that he actually does reach 3 inches while fully erect. Think of Tucker Carlson, and then think of his mirror universe counterpart. And that would be Chris Hayes. Except in this situation, they should both have goatees, if you know what I mean. Well, what Chris Hayes just claimed is basically that liberals and suburban and urban housewives and women are committing gun crimes at an alarming rate. They're responsible for this increase in gun violence, this little blip of an increase in gun violence after a pandemic that they want to pretend is so large and so important. Well, he's basically blaming it all, like I said, on liberals and women. Because what he said in his show, and I don't want to call it a newscast because it's not a newscast, he's just one of these people that, I'd be willing to bet that his glasses probably aren't even prescription, because he's one of these people that tries to pretend to be an intellectual to disguise the fact that he's actually just another partisan with an agenda. So he doesn't come across very genuine, and he definitely isn't a journalist. So I'm not going to call it a news program. I mean, he might have a degree in something like journalism, but he doesn't put it into effect or into act on his show. But like I was saying, he was saying on his show that since gun ownership has gone up because record sales of guns happened, wow, look, violence followed the same pattern. Therefore, it's all these new guns being sold causing all this crime. He made that leap from correlation to causation. Just so happens that all these guns are selling and crime has gone up. Well, you know what else? During the time all those guns were being sold or being produced and sold, you know what else went up? Price of oil. So maybe guns cause oil prices to rise. Makes sense, right? So... actually, I think they went down, then they went up, so it's hard to tell. Guns make oil prices unpredictable. So, just the same kind of logic there. Correlation and causation are two different things. If we had a rise in gun sales and, cases of gonorrhea were way down, well, do gun sales prevent gonorrhea? You could make the same claim using his logic. But like I'm saying, he had no logic there. He had no connection. But let's say, for sake of argument here, that he's correct. That it is this big spike in gun sales, this new class of gun owner. And I don't mean class as in whether they're classy or they're low, classy with a C or classy with a K. I just mean a new group of people owning guns. Because if you're saying it's the new sales and the new gun owners causing the problem, or the massive sales increase causing the problem, well, there's only two different types of customers in this situation. People that already owned guns, and I can't believe one more gun or two more guns even pushed them over the edge because they've always had guns. So saying they're committing the crimes wouldn't make sense. They were safe when they had 10, but now they got 12. So they're evil now. I don't know what reasoning you could use there. So the only logical assumption you can make from what he said and how he's linking the increased sales and increased ownership to increased crime is that the new buyers, the first-time buyers, because those are the types there are, the people that already had guns buying more guns, and first-time buyers buying guns. And since it doesn't make sense to say, well, they didn't commit crimes with their old guns, but they did with their new, makes no sense at all. You have to lay the blame at the feet of the new gun owners and the people that were buying all those guns that made such an increase in sales, caused such an increase in sales. And we know from pretty much every study they've done, every little bit of tracking they've done from groups like the CDC, FBI, etc., that the biggest groups that went up during the pandemic from owning guns is women and liberals. People who saw violence in the streets and went, oh, I better get a gun. Whether it was violence from like Antifa, which, believe me, people on the left do worry about Antifa. Don't let them tell you they don't. Don't let them tell you, like, I'm not worried about Antifa. Because they are. If they live in a downtown area or a big city, they are worried about being in the wrong place at the wrong time during an Antifa protest and having the wrong color skin or whatever. Driving the wrong kind of car or whatever. So they are, because they're seeing these things and they are afraid of these things, they're buying more guns. Also, they're also afraid of the the armed white supremacist that's hiding behind every rock and tree in America right now, according to some media. Never been as many white supremacists as there are now, which seems kind of silly to someone like me who was raised in the 60s, who actually still saw water fountains that said whites only on them, that they just painted over the plaque after the civil rights movement. But like I say, just a ridiculous notion. But they're afraid of Antifa, and they're afraid of all those armed white supremacists that are out there now. There's an armed guy in a sheet behind every rock ready to get you. So they started buying guns because they saw violence going from only affecting people in certain poor areas and affecting certain poor people to actually spill it into their areas. Because when people go on marches and stuff like this, they leave those areas and go to the areas of the people that are buying the guns now. The more upper class, more trendy neighborhoods, etc. So liberals, women, housewives who are afraid, like, oh, I'm here by myself a lot. I don't need the means to defend myself. So if they're the new gun owners, well then obviously if you're saying that it's the new sales that are equaling the new or causing the rise in gun violence, they're the ones committing it. So you would have to admit you're saying women and liberals are committing violence. I never should have let liberals have guns, I guess, which I would hate because technically I'm a liberal. I'm a Jeffersonian liberal. I'm not one of these modern day leftists that call themselves liberals. But does he even realize what he's saying? Because that would be the only logical explanation for him trying to tie these two things together, is that liberals are bloodthirsty monsters and so are women. Because we know women, they've started most of the wars. They cause most of the conflict. The only people women hurt are other women. And they don't usually tend to hurt each other physically, although some of them do. They like to mentally destroy people. So guns really isn't their things. They usually prefer catty quips and, hateful stares. But, and that's generalization there. It's a little sexist, but it's still true. The women are a lot less likely to engage in violent crimes. So his whole premise is stupid. It's ridiculous. There is no link. And plus, violent crime really isn't that high right now. Look at the 90s. And gun ownership wasn't exploding in the 90s, so what was causing that? It's inner city violence, it's gangs, it's all these things. Violence is coming from the same things it's always come from. Intermarital problems, family problems, gang violence. The same things that have always caused gun violence are causing it now. The only difference now is we just came out of a pandemic where the people who didn't like each other were stuck with each other 24/7. Gang members, have a lot of grudges that happened that they couldn't take care of before because it was too obvious when they were in the streets and no one else was, that they're catching up on now. Those are the things that are really responsible for the gun violence issue right now. Not guns, not liberals, not women, and not people who've owned guns in the past, not conservatives. It's the same old things it's always been. And there's just a tiny little blip now because we've come off of something we've never come out of before. A pandemic lockdown. So, to this guy, to Chris Hayes, do you realize how stupid that argument was? Has anyone pointed out to you that, hey, you just went on national TV and said women and liberals and minority gun buyers were up too, so minorities are causing all this gun violence? Because that just doesn't make sense. It just makes you look like an idiot. I would hope you would come on your show tomorrow and say, oh, those things I said, that was stupid. But I know you won't because, every one of you guys, you journalists, follow that never repent. When you lie, stick to your lie. So I don't have any high hopes for that, but you just made yourself look stupid, because it doesn't take an intellectual to realize how faulty that whole correlation and causation argument was. And even if someone did take you on your word and followed it to the logical conclusion that liberals and women are committing all the crime, that holds no water whatsoever. You just made yourself look a fool. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you didn't know Chris Hayes, good for you. Maybe you'll live your life without ever knowing him. But if you did know him, he just said one of the stupidest things he's ever said. And for him, that's saying something. All right, everybody, I want to move on now to my favorite part of the show, gun talk. And I want to answer the little riddle we put forward yesterday. If you remember yesterday, I said I had just put a new gun on layaway. And I gave some hints to what it was to people who were watching my live feed as I was there at the gun shop, basically, and knew I was there for a reason. And I said, well, I won't tell you what I put on layaway, but I'll give you hints. And basically the hints were, it started with .45, because people wanted to know the calibers. I said, well, I'll give you the first three elements of the caliber. It's .35, the first three characters. Or .45, I think I just said .35. .45 was the first three characters of the caliber. And then people asked, I let them ask them yes, no questions. They said, is it a revolver? I said, no. Is it a semi-automatic? I said, no. Is it a long gun? I said, no. And, a couple other questions, but those was the gist. And I told people yesterday, if you can guess what it is, I'll select 10 of you that get it right from the chat, send you a patch or something special. Well, a lot of people got it. I think about 15 or so people actually answered it before my live chat last night where I gave the answer. But what it was a .45, 45 long Colt, LC, or just Colt as some people like to call it, Henry Mare's leg. If you're not familiar, I already had the 357 Magnum and the 44 Magnum, but and I have a 410, the Axe, but I never had the 45 long Colt. And the reason I never had the 45 Colt is because every time I'd go to the store and see one of the Mare's legs in stock, which is very rare, I could never remember which two I had. I know I had two of the three, but I'm like, do I have the 357 and the 45? Or do I have the 347 and the 44 Magnum? I knew I had the 347 or 357. Well, my numbers and stuff tonight are just not right. I should start filming these things before 3 a.m. Well, maybe my brain would still be working. But like I said, I could never remember which one I didn't have. Knew I had the 357 Magnum one. Didn't know if I had the 44 Mag or the 45 Long Colt. And I would go back and look and be like, okay, these are the two I have. But then next time I'd get to the store, I'd be like, wait, which one was it? So never knew. But luckily, I saw them post one on Instagram. And when I saw them post it on Instagram, I ran over and saw which ones I had and then ran to the store and got it. I actually left a barbecue to go do it. I had to sneak out, say, I'm going to go do my podcast, which I did do my podcast from there as a good reason to not do my podcast from the driveway and actually be able to go get this gun. So that's what it was. 45 Long Colt Henry Mare's legs. It completes my collection of the brass-bodied Mare's legs they sell. And I also have the Axe. The only other two Mare's legs they sell are a 22 long rifle and a 22 Magnum, and I don't want either one of those. So, not worried about those. Now, next, I hope they make a 4570 in a Mare's leg. Now, that'd be something to have. But for now, it was the 45 Long Colt Mare's legs. So, if you guessed correctly, I've got a list of people who guessed correctly. Tonight, during my live chat, I almost said tomorrow night, but I forget this will be posted tomorrow. So tonight during my live chat at 5 p.m. Pacific time, I will announce the winners, and you just send me your information and I'll send you something. That's probably going to be a patch, like a Mavis patch, or like a Kool-Aid Man patch. It's probably going to be something like a Mavis patch or the Kool-Aid Man patch, something along those lines. But like I said, watch the chat tonight. I'll let you know if you're one of the winners, but that's what it was, the 45 Long Colt from Henry, the Mare's leg. All right, everybody, I want to end the show today with our pet rescue of the day. And today we have Tiger. And Tiger is coming to us from Boyd S. And the reason I wanted to show Tiger today is because Boyd not only rescued Tiger, but also Tiger's siblings. And not in a way you would consider a normal rescue. He didn't go somewhere and get a cat, bring it home, bring it in the house. He had seen that an old cat had had kittens in his barn. Well, those kittens were born there. They were raised there. He started caring for those kittens, feeding them, providing for them, and they stayed around. That became their home, his barn. He didn't bring them in his house that I know of. It didn't make it sound like that. They're outdoor cats, but they have a place to live in his barn. And because he did that, they're having a happy life. He did take them into the vet, have them spayed and neutered, so they weren't making more of a problem. So now he's got these spayed and neutered cats in his barn, keeping his mice population down. They're performing a task for him, and he's rewarding them with shelter and food. Much like we did when I was a kid. We had 4 or 5 cats that just lived outside in the barn. They lived in the hayloft. They loved it. They were happy there. They had each other. They occasionally came over and interacted with us, but not as much as you would think. But they were very happy in their lives outside. A lot of cats are like that. We have a woodshed behind our building here. There's 2 cats I know of that pretty much live there. And I just put food out for them. Every couple of days I go out and make sure the food bowl still has stuff in it. If they've caught something and ate it, I notice they don't eat a lot of the food. If it's bad weather out or something like that, I'll notice they eat more of the food because they're like, well, I'm not going to go hunting today, I'll eat this food. So you can make a difference in an animal's life just by providing for them, letting them be themselves, but giving them a safe haven. Like putting a dog house out where cats can sleep in or something. Or even a dog if you fed him, if he was like a stray dog. Putting out food for strays does make a difference. You don't have to bring every animal into your house to make a difference in their life. Just feeding a stray might keep him happy and healthy until someone else adopts him. You can make a difference that way. So even if you live somewhere you don't want cats in your house, maybe you have allergies, etc., you can still make a difference. The biggest thing he did was have them spayed and neutered. That was awesome because that way the problem's not getting bigger. But I just wanted to show this because, like I say, people always think, oh, I can't adopt. I don't want to adopt a cat. I'm allergic. I can't have them in the house. Then just do what you can to make life better for an animal that maybe doesn't have a home yet. Or provide an alternative means for them to have a place to live. Like if it's a cat, cats often love just having a warm place to sleep, freedom to do what they want to do, and food if they need it. So I just wanted to say congratulations to Boyd S. for doing what he can do, being responsible, getting them, like I said, fixed, and say congratulations to Tiger and her brother and sister for finding a place where not only do they have a forever home, but they actually serve a purpose in life and they're earning their keep. All right, everybody, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back again tomorrow. Until then, I just want to sign off, as usual, by saying, as far as the state of the world today is concerned, it is what it is. It could be a lot worse, trust me, but it could still be better. And if we continue to fight smart and hard for the Second Amendment, ignore the fearmongers, the profiteers, the propagandists, the people that pretend to be the champions of the gun community, but only really serve their own selfish financial interests, if we continue to ignore those people and do what's right, what things will be in the very near future for people who love the Second Amendment and freedom in general is better.